Say the name Swope to almost any Louisvillian and automobiles come to mind. Bill Swope opened his first car dealership 60 years ago when the average new car cost about $1,700. These days, Mr. Swope is offering a fabulous car experience free of charge, and all it takes is hitting the road to Elizabethtown.
I started this museum because I had an interest in vintage cars, and I've had that interest for many, many years. We started in business in 1952. A friend of mine called me. He said, "Bill," he said, "you're just starting in business. You have a little Dodge Plymouth dealership." He said, "I've got just what you need." He said, "I've got this 1918 Dodge," and he said, "if you park that in front of your dealership, you'll attract traffic." And I still have that car. I still have that car. It's a 1918 Dodge touring car. We have a number of brands of cars and style of cars, and a number of cars over the years, dating from 1910 until the cars of the 1960s, which a lot of people identify with.
Mr. Bill Swope is quite a gentleman. I met him when I was a child. My dad traded cars with him. Well, he can tell you anything about the cars. Mr. Bill can tell you, you can ask him a question, he knows exactly what you're talking about. He knows anything you want to ask him, I'm sure he'll have an answer for it.
One of the favorite cars back in the 1930s was the Packard automobile. Packard was the car of choice among those people who could afford a Packard. If you had a Packard, people didn't have to wonder how you're doing. They just knew that car told a story. And I remember thinking back in those days, I hope someday I'll be able to have a Packard. Well, our museum has 7 Packards. There is a 1932 LaSalle convertible here, blue and white. And there was a blonde bombshell in the movies back in the 1930s by the name of Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow. And Jean Harlow had a blue and white 1932 LaSalle convertible, just like the one that we have. And we like to think that that may have been her car, but we have no proof of that.
Everybody enjoys it. Everyone that comes in the museum are so impressed with what he's done. We have people from all over the United States, all over the world. Everybody comes here at some time or another. Most people travel a lot, and they go to a lot of museums, and they've been to a lot of car museums. And I even had a couple yesterday told me that this one was in their top 3.
There's something very distinctive about a Rolls Royce, and we have a couple of them here in the museum. The Rolls Royce that a lot of people are attracted to is a car that was sold new in 1939 to the Marquis of Huntley in London, England. The car was driven by the Marquis of Huntley's son and 2 of his granddaughters through Europe in the summer of 1939, which was just before World War II started. And they were attending the Wagner festivals in France and Belgium, Luxembourg, and so on. They were having dinner in a fashionable restaurant in Beirut, Germany, and Hitler and his entourage came in and sat at a special table. And one of these girls, one of these young ladies, lit a cigarette. And Hitler did not like smoking. And almost immediately a big German stormtrooper came over, whispered something to the group, and the uncle said to the girls, "Put out that cigarette, put out the cigarette." She's 22 years old. She said, "But I just lit it." Put out the cigarette.
Bill Swope has done a great job with this museum and providing it for the community. And I know everybody loves him. They think he's quite a gentleman, and they really appreciate being able to come into a museum like this and it be free. I mean, you know, you don't go to many museums or places that it's free anymore.
Everybody has a car story to tell. It's interesting when people visit our museum, they want to tell me about the car they learned to drive on, or they want to tell me about the car they had on their first date, or maybe the car that their mother and dad had. And we love these stories, and so there's immediately a conversation. We have a point of interest that we talk about. I love people, I love cars, and I love people to come and see what we have, and I love to talk to them.
Bill's first job post-college was at a building materials company in Cincinnati. He says he knew he had found his life's calling when he was more interested in his company car than he was in the materials he was selling.